just wanted to create a quick video to kind of help explain R in RStudio. I've had a few emails kind of making sure that they've done things the correct way, so I just wanted to send out a video. Maybe it would help everybody. What you can see on my screen here is RStudio. Now, the download instructions do take you through downloading R, so you have to have what's called base R, and then after that you have to download RStudio, which is they say it's an easier user interface. I still think it's pretty complicated on its own. It takes a little while to get used to, but I will agree with them that compared to using just base R, RStudio is much easier to sort of view and see if you've inputted code correctly, what your results look like, how they're formed, how many variables you have. So a little bit easier to kind of check your work along the way, I think. So if you've downloaded base R, then you also need to download RStudio, and we will just use RStudio most. Personally, I only use RStudio. So I just want to kind of give you a quick overview of RStudio. You can ignore a lot of this stuff that's over here. When you open files and do work, it kind of keeps like a history, and you can clean it up. But a lot of times I just like to keep things just in case I don't want to lose anything. So the first thing you should see, there's 4 different areas. You've got right here a quadrant in the upper left, this quadrant over here in the upper right. You've got a lower section here and in the right, and then a lower section here. So there's 4 kind of quadrants of RStudio, and you can change the size and rearrange if you want. If you have to have them even, that's fine. I don't really that doesn't tend to bother me, or I don't really mess with that. But if you don't see the 4th quadrant, most likely it's this top one on the left. This is called your script editor. So if you don't see a script editor, you can go here to this plus sign and where it says new file, and you can add a new R script. And if you don't have anything here, it will pop up your script editor. In my case, since I already had the script editor open, it opened up another file that's not named. Okay. So I have 2 scripts here that I can work on, 2 different, if you want to think of it like Excel, 2 different worksheets, and I can name them differently, and I can do different commands and different functions on each one. Okay, the console panel in the lower left corner, you can type code. If you see my cursor here, you can type code straight into the, make sure you click in it, down here into the lower left console panel. So I just know this is a code for get working directory. And get WD stands for it'll display the name of your working directory, which is the point of this project, was to set up your working directory. However, things can get kind of messy down here because this is also where some of your output will display. So I really suggest not typing code into the bottom left here, and I really think you should do the script editor. That's what I always do. Like I said, the console pane here is going to show you your output too, so sometimes your code can get a little lost. And if you don't have this greater than sign, so sometimes you think you start typing and you delete and it goes away, or you don't have the greater than sign, or an arrow shows up, it won't accept code. So then you get in like this little loop cycle where you're just compounding your errors, if that makes sense. So my best advice is to always type your commands up here in the script editor. This is called the environment pane up here, and this just kind of gives you, if you leave it here on the environment tab, it'll kind of tell you what you're working with, right? So I was looking with a vector, a .vector document, and it had 29 observations in it. I had a data set down here, and it was a text file. So I've got different things. Basically it keeps track of the different variables, vectors, data sets. Data frames is a word used in R a lot that you've created. And you have these other tabs up here, but honestly I spend a lot of time right here just leaving it on this and making sure that if I've pulled in a document to use data for, I can see how many variables and how many observations I had. Down here is your packages or the files console, and this is where you can see the files that you've imported or that you have access to. Actually, that's a receipt for my orthodontics, so I've never imported it, but this is where my working directory, these are the files I have access to through my working directory. And I don't really use many of the other tabs except packages. Every now and then, and we'll go through it together in some of the instructions, you'll have to add a package by installing. So there is a module, later a project where you'll have to add a package. So the nice thing about R is that it's free. And anybody can install it. You know, a lot of these software programs can be very expensive, and so R is an alternative to the expensive programs. The second, I guess, good thing about R, it could also be a bad thing, is that anybody anywhere can create a package. So you can see some of these, there's a function in statistics that we use sometimes for bootstrapping, and there are different, basically, variations of bootstrapping. So this one is by an author, and then you can see there's a custom bootstrap. So anybody can make a module or make a package, and some are more widely used than the other. So I guess it's kind of good, it's kind of bad. But if you're into programming and you end up doing, you know, a procedure over and over multiple times, you might want to create a package and let other people use it. Basically, it just gives certain codes and commands that you can only use if you have that package installed. So we'll go through some of those, especially for plotting and graphics. We'll install a few of those packages. So really all I ever use over here is I just see what I have access to, if I need to pull anything up, and then if I have to add or install a package, this is where you would do that. So for this project 5, I've had a few questions. What do I need to submit? I guess what I'm looking for is and I'll add these instructions, and I really appreciate all y'all's feedback. It really helps me make the instructions more clear and better, is if you'll type in the code git working directory, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. You'll type that in your script editor, and I'll teach you a shortcut. You can shift and over arrow, and you can select the code that you've typed, and if you hit Control Enter, it will run that code for you. Now the other thing that you can do is you have to select your data, and then there should be run. I don't even ever use it up here. I'm so embarrassed. So I'm not even sure where run is. Oh, but there it is, right there, run. For me, I find it so much easier if I've got my hands on the keyboard just to do the Control Enter. But you can type select and then hit run, and it will run only the data that you selected. Okay, so if you look down here in our results panel, the console down here, you can see that the git working directory resulted in one line of results, and it was that I am pulling data, or anything that I do in R will save data or save files, save scripts to my C drive with the path following users, Fallon Turley, OneDrive, Jacksonville, under my documents. So I don't really care where you save your working directory, or you know, if you just want to save it under the C drive in general, as long as you can access it again. So as far as what I'm looking for you to submit for Project 5 is, once you type in this git working directory, I'm looking to see that it shows up somewhere with your name. That's typically how I name mine, just so I know that it's my work, but it really doesn't matter. But for now, I want you to go ahead and name some working directory under some drive in your computer so that you can easily find it. And I want to be able to see your name or some identifying factor down here. And then if you have, of course, I'm using a Windows device, so if you have a Mac, things may be a little different. You may not hit Control Enter to run the code. You may have to hit the other function key and enter. But then I just want you to take a screenshot of this. So for me, I hit the Windows button, the Shift button, and S, and that'll bring up my snip. And so I just want you to screenshot, take a picture of the entire R panel, and then you'll just upload that picture to serve as proof that you've downloaded R and you have a valid working directory. Hope this helps.